Dungeon of the Endless is brought to us by Amplitude Studios. Originally released back in late 2013 on Steam Early Access, the small team released the full version in October of 2014. It has been on Xbox One since March of 2016, and this week saw a quest for it on Gamepass. I played this on the Xbox One X using a 4K monitor, the basic controller, alternating between cheap earbuds and Turtle Beach Stealth 600s. I recorded game footage to a 5TB Seagate USB 3 drive using the Xbox's built-in capabilities. Links to my setup are down below. This game feels like FTL mixed with Dungeon Keeper to me, and they added a splash of Kingdom of Loathing for flavor. As a roguelike, the play is different every time through, even if you pick the same characters. While not initially apparent, this game is turn-based and has many tower defense elements in addition to resource generation as one might find in an RTS. The game uses a pixel art style with a clean, futuristic feel to the color palette. It recorded in 4K and text was very crisp and easy to read throughout the game. While the 2D art does have a retro feel to it, it was beautiful and many fire, smoke, shadow, and lighting effects were present. Even though the art style might be reminiscent of Shadowrun on Super Nintendo, it is not blocky, but presented in a very modern way. The audio track was very environmental, with futuristic beeps and boops happening regularly. The music had a bit of an eerie and mysterious feel to it. Sound effects were not overpowering and felt like they matched the accompanying actions well. In my time playing, I didn't tire of the music or sound effects at all. When not free with Game Pass, this will set you back $11.99. It has an expansion for another $1.99. You get 20% off while it's on Game Pass. There's not a big splash screen asking me to get the expansion, and other than the expansion, there's no DLC to speak of. The story is basic. Your ship crashed and you need to escape this dungeon with your ship's power source. You get dropped right into the action with little to no assistance. The tutorial is buried in a menu, and I didn't even find it at first. Even the tutorial only covers the basics which most gamers familiar with the resource gathering and tower defense games will pick up on their own, experimenting for a few minutes. There's not a lot covered by the tutorial, or any in-game documentation I could find. If you are into exploratory gameplay and figuring out game nuances on your own, this game is going to scratch an itch for you. The characters, many of which start out locked, have backstories, and it's here, and in some of the items, where the development team shows themselves. There's some good humor in there, but you have to look for most of it, such as the item named after a famous intergalactic encyclopedia. The basic gameplay is pretty simple once you figure out what's going on and how things interact. From there, it's a combination of solving the puzzle before you and getting a good dice roll to do well. I chose the easiest setting I could, in part to get through the gameplay and do this review. Every level the game gets more difficult, but of course, you also get more powerful. Much like FTL, the game has a decent difficulty curve, and I played on the easiest setting, also known as Too Easy. It does tend to go south in a hurry, just like FTL does though, so watch for that. The controls are easy to grasp, and by the second level you'll have them memorized, and they'll be second nature. Mostly. I kept accidentally triggering an object when I was trying to select it, but that's probably me not realizing it was already selected or something. The primary gameplay loop is pretty simple. Open doors to expand the game board and get and find stuff. Set up the game board to maximize resources, use resources to get more powerful, work your way up the dungeon. Between the simple loop, nuanced interplay of things that I am still discovering, and roguelike nature of the game, there is a high replayability factor. Every game I saw pieces of in this one was a game I enjoy, and this one is likely to stay in my rotation for a while now that I've found it. Pretty much what Game Pass is meant for, right? Speaking of Game Pass, the quest for this week was to open 10 doors. Opening a door is how you advance a turn in this game. Opening 10 will not take long. Even floundering to figure out what's going on, it should be done in 10 to 20 minutes. I did not think you could get the quest without gaining an achievement though, so there is that to consider. Also, as a roguelike, there's a chance that later achievements will be difficult to get, and a clean 1000 may be hard to accomplish for many players, not to mention the grind of hours that will likely go with it. I'll start my dislikes with the tutorial. Many games are trying to incorporate their tutorials into either setting up the story or just the beginning of the game, and that's good. This one requires launching it, and then it doesn't go into much detail. Making this even worse is the lack of documentation on what things in-game mean and do. Core gameplay mechanics aren't made obvious and can only be discovered by stumbling onto them, just like the original roguelikes for what it's worth. I feel like the game may suffer from a bit of a steep difficulty ramp-up. I haven't made it to the end yet, so this may be inexperienced talking, but it seems the levels get harder faster than you're given the ability to get better. I have felt that way in FTL at times too, so it may be a false early impression. The story is very weak in this game. I'm not claiming all good games have a great story, but with how well the gameplay turned out, I would expect a little bit more story. Perhaps the expansion has more. This may be a little bit of my writer side showing through, but the first message given to me by the game was, "Hostile creatures found, again." That was the first message, on my first playthrough. There's a lot to like about my time playing. The general gameplay loop is one I grew to enjoy in FTL, and I can see the game filling that spot for a while. The art and graphics were wonderful. Looking at this game is unlikely to get tiresome. The hints of humor were welcome, almost creating a connection with the development team. It's hard to put a quantifier on it, but when a game reminds you of many games you've enjoyed before, that's a good thing, and it rarely happens these days. There's usually a game or two that you feel it has similarities to, but this time around it was more than that. Finally, I enjoyed the speed at which you can get in and out of the game. Fast load times, sure. More importantly, fast times through the minimal menus for both loading and saving. I think you probably know by now that my verdict is buy. I may buy it when they announce it's leaving Gamepass, to be honest. If you like discovery-based gameplay that changes every time, this game is for you. If you want to be told what to do, how to do it, and what everything does for you on the way, well, maybe not. I'm almost done with my review of Battletoads, and Carrion is on hot standby. Subscribe down below and click for notifications if you want to be the first to see these reviews when they come out.